Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DeJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Imagine a workplace where inspiration reigns, where every team member loves their role, and where business growth becomes not just a goal, but a reality. But we all know building and keeping a winning team can be challenging. A single event can deteriorate your employee engagement, lead to decreased productivity and morale, and when there's no change, your organizational culture can become stagnant, hindering innovation and collaboration. At the DeJulius Group, we understand what you're going through, and we're here to guide you toward a brighter future. Our newest course offering, the Employee Experience Executive Academy, was designed for both new and established leaders. It's for HR teams, employee managers, those who are committed to driving positive change within their organizations. At the Employee Experience Executive Academy, we don't just teach leadership, we cultivate it. Our 12-month part-time intensive course is exclusively led by the content creators, best-selling authors, John DeJulius and Dave Murray. Find out more about the course and how you can enroll by emailing claudia@thedejuliusgroup.com. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DeJulius. In this episode, John sits down with Eric Vermillion, CEO of Helpshift. Helpshift is at the forefront of the modern customer support experience. And in this conversation, Eric provides invaluable insights into how businesses can enhance their strategies to drastically improve customer experiences, increase retention, loyalty, and ultimately sales revenue. Eric has extensive experience leveraging AI to transform customer experiences. During this episode, you'll learn through real-world success stories about the future of customer experience, how businesses are integrating AI and human expertise, and you'll walk away with actionable insights for your own business. Now, here's John.
Welcome back, revolutionaries. And today, my guest is Eric Vermillion, CEO of Helpshift. Helpshift has extensive experience in leveraging AI, skilled human specialists in cutting-edge technology to transform customer experience. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Tell our listeners a little bit about Helpshift.
Yeah, so Helpshift started out as a company really focused on helping companies that were largely using mobile apps to deliver customer support through those mobile apps. Started out as a Bay Area startup and kind of ran independently for a number of years and built a presence on a large percentage of mobile apps that were being used out there in the world. We've had over 3 billion, our SDK sits on over 3 billion mobile devices. And so we helped a lot of brands that wanted to communicate with their customers through mobile apps to do that and really deliver kind of a continuous way to engage your customers through that lovely little thing that they have on their person all the time. Grew the business, and ultimately a lot of companies in the gaming industry were heavy adopters of this. And so we were approached by kind of the leading services provider to the gaming industry, a company called Keywords Studios, and decided to join forces with them a little under 2 years ago. And so we've been actively looking for ways to deliver both to the gaming industry and outside of the gaming industry, to leverage some of those capabilities that we had built independently, combined with some of the other great things that Keywords does in providing humans with that assistance, language translation capabilities and AI language translation capabilities, as well as a lot of media and entertainment capabilities that do have a direct tie-in to customer service. So we've been busy kind of expanding those capabilities to really help deliver what's evolved more into kind of a broader category of overall engagement with customers, primarily in the gaming and media and entertainment industries, but we do have a number of customers in financial services and retail and some other spaces as well.
And so what's that look like? Is that like the contact centers? Like how are you helping businesses with the AI adoption?
Yeah, it is in the contact center. So it's helping make, think of it as making the people who are servicing and engaging with your customers more effective and efficient in how they do that, helping to automate a lot of the things that, used to be very, very difficult to do because you had to kind of gather a lot of data, or you had to pass people off to, depending on different languages or locations around the world, a pretty inefficient process, kind of helping drive that and make that a much more efficient process by automating a lot of that transaction as it used to sort of be considered and making it a lot more relational now.
Yeah. And so, I think AI is kind of, the haves and the have-nots, and it's just changing so fast. There's a lot of negativity about there. I don't know if that's from, the first couple of generations of chatbots, or if it's still, I'm still seeing articles and reports and surveys saying, 62% of customers still want a human being. I absolutely endorse it. I think it's the natural evolution. I kind of have unless you got deep, deep pockets, wait and see and let it get to, generation 2 or generation 3. Where am I wrong? Where am I right? Help me figure this evolution out, because it's coming so fast. I compare it a lot, and tell me if I have this right. I compare it a lot to the .com. Was it the late 90s, where everyone was getting in it, but you kind of had to take a step back. It was definitely the future, but you had to take a step back to see who was gonna, be the players and who were just the pretenders. What do I have right and wrong about that?
Well, I think you're right that there's going to be a lot that shake out as kind of pretenders. Yeah. I still remember the .com era when there was an IPO but a company, I think it was called Pets.com, that they added .com to the end, and somehow they were going to be able to make money shipping 50-pound bags of dog food all over the world.
Right.
That ended tragically, but all they did was add the .com. I think there's a lot of .AIs, and I think there's a lot of false hope that's being spread right now. And I don't envy customer service, customer support personnel. I'm trying to really separate the wheat from the chaff there. I think it's iterative and evolutionary in terms of how you think about what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of the AI messaging right now is, we're going to make you better, we're going to help you become more efficient, and we're going to allow you to cut costs. And so I think the predominant theme is, this is a way to cut costs and cut staff. And I think that's just an incredibly foolish way to look at this. If I was selling to a sales and marketing organization and I said, I can make your sales team 30% more effective, and you believed me and you bought into that and you went full steam ahead with that project, you'd be making plans for how to drive revenue growth in your organization. Yeah. I say to a CX leader, I can make you 30% more efficient. It's like the first thought is, oh, well, we can cut the budget by 30%, but we don't need as many people. But these are the people who are talking to your customers every single day, usually at their most vulnerable point, at their times of highest vulnerability. And now you're saying, oh, well, we just don't value that, so we're going to get rid of people. You should be looking at this as, you've got an opportunity to use your CX organization to drive revenue growth. You've got an opportunity to use it to drive brand loyalty, to create real ambassadors for your brand, to create kind of that continuous engagement that I mentioned earlier, where you start to be, where support can become more relational versus transactional. And so that's maybe a lot of words there that are not necessarily directly related to AI, but I think the moral of the story and what I'm suggesting is that don't look at AI as this, magic bean that allows you to eliminate people or cut costs. I'm not naive. Sure, that can be,
well, Eric, how does one get their CFO behind it then, right? I mean, because that's the only thing the language CFOs, CEOs, and COs, speak to. So where does the benefits come? If I'm a customer service rep, I'm even more efficient, right? I love the parts, and correct me if I have it right, but you're calling in, you're asking about something, and it populates for me. So there's not that pregnant pause of me trying to find, or it populates, your purchase history and all that. So I know that you're from Austin and that you like, this and that. Tell me where will it help the company and justify the investment?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but let's just say you've got a 5-minute average handle time on a call, and I show you a way to reduce that by 40%. You've now just bought that agent 2 extra minutes of time.
Yep.
Assuming you're comfortable keeping costs the same, what do you do with that additional 2 minutes? Do you equip the agent to say, hey, I noticed based on your purchase history that you might be really interested in this new thing. We haven't shared it with the whole market yet. We've got this really cool new thing that we'd like to give you the first crack at. Would you be interested in that? And if that
not to mention we reduced hold times, right? Abandonment calls.
Yeah.
But the first thing I'm thinking of is if I'm a CFO, you just saved 40% of calls. That means I can lay off 40% of the staff that hour.
Yeah. And it's a
there will be some of that, but
there will be some of that, and that's where the mind goes
right
first, because customer service has always been viewed as a cost center, and customer service leaders are always trying to battle shrinking budgets. And this is no different. Now you've got so many different ways with AI to spend money if you're a customer service leader, but the budget hasn't changed. So if you've heard the sales pitch from 10 different people who are trying to sell you AI, you're like, I want 5 of those things, but I'm going to have to come up with $5 million to do that. Now you're thinking about ways to
recoup that
$5 million, right? By eliminating other things. Whereas in that earlier scenario where I said you reduce your average handle time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, if that creates 10,000 new opportunities to sell something that's $100,
right?
You start to see a pretty fast ROI on the upsell, but also just you think about the lifetime value of a customer, right? And people will measure that in different ways, but having that little bit of extra time to spend with somebody to really enhance and improve your brand and not make them feel like you're trying to get off the phone with them. It's not a leap to get a CFO, I think, to believe that that's actually something that's valuable. And
so, and listen, I like human beings, but I also like going to a website or an app, like you said, and getting my answer right there. And I know we have a generation or two that are still technology resistant, and we have to have the channels for them. But if I don't have to call, I don't want to, just because the thought of calling sounds daunting, that I am going to be on hold forever, even though hopefully it's not the case. But if I can go to the website and renew or update my credit card expiration data or whatever, that's great, which some of it does that, absolutely does that. I think the stereotypical concerns are, customers are fearful that they're not going to be able to get a human being. Employees, and do you find this, that the contact center reps could almost sabotage it because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. So they don't want this to work. How does a company like Helpshift help deliver that message that we're not here to take your job. We're here to make your job easier. Like you said, no one wants to call customer support. It's a grudge buy, right? It's the last thing I want to be doing with my time. And if you can make it easier, quicker, more empathetic, and come to the rescue for me in half the time I thought it was going to be, then it's better. So how does Helpshift sell that? Because it's one thing if the CFO and CEO buy you and they bring you in. But again, you could have the employees sabotage it, and maybe I'm being paranoid, and that's not happening. I don't know. What's your experience?
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of employee sabotaging. This is obviously often kind of a entry level type role, and people are hungry to learn, but there is a lot of turnover because it does become, or it's historically been a very robotic job. And so we're just as focused on making the life of the call center agent easier as well. So a lot of these,
I love that. Listen, and that's another KPI, if you can reduce turnover, if my average contact center rep works 8 months, right? The life, span, and I can get that to one year and 2 months. That's a huge victory. I mean, that's huge.
And there's a very tangible cost of onboarding and hiring and managing that turnover that happens. But, as a call center agent, if my job is spent 50% of the time just collecting data and doing robotic tasks, that's a pretty boring job. That's not interesting. But if I tell you I'm going to give you tools that allow you to kind of predict what the customer says or understand the sentiment so that you know whether or not this customer is starting to get angry or
so does it read frustration? Does it coach to be more empathetic?
Absolutely.
Love that.
And I can give you the ability to provide service to people in different languages, because AI language translation is a real thing now that is, extremely helpful. So you can do 24/7 service, anywhere in the world. And you can work hand in hand with those bots and those automation capabilities. Like, it's okay. Yeah, I definitely prefer to go to a website. I prefer to have an automated tool that's helping me. But sometimes it takes both to do that. And if you can do that in the same engagement, and I love the word engagement here because it is historically, it's been so transactional. If you can do that in the same engagement, that's a much more likely scenario to create a proud customer support person who feels like they really helped a customer, but also really happy, delighted.
Yeah, versus feeling like a punching bag because I got beat up by 50 callers today because, we're out of stock, shipping didn't, do that. You don't go home feeling too good. I love that. Something else I just thought of, so a lot we talk about is collecting Ford. F-O-R-D, like the car, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Now, in a account executive, a call center, it's a little difficult, right? Because again, we have 4 minutes and 30 seconds average, we want that. And I have a contact center. I don't want them Fording my clients. That'd be like a stalker checklist, right? Like, are you married? Do you have kids? What do you do? But as you know, the database will tell us stuff, right? Yeah. You're from Austin, Texas. These are the products or services you've bought, whatever that is. A lot of our clients will track Ford if it comes up. Don't ask, but if it comes up, if I hear a dog barking in the background, a baby crying, or you say, is it coming today? I have to pick up my daughter at college, right? And those things. I'm wondering, is there a way for Ford to auto-populate at the end of a call or during a call that he has a daughter, he's from Austin, Texas, his favorite product with us is this, so the next time we speak to you, how's your daughter doing at A&M?
Yeah, and those capabilities have been there, I think, for a while. In the call center world, and it's almost like with the advent of AI and the ability to collect data from so many different sources, like you and I can sit here for another half an hour, dream up all these different scenarios. It's really cool in a customer service environment, and they're all probably possible. And this probably ties back to the earlier question of what's the biggest challenge with AI right now is there are a wealth of possibilities, and there are a lot of companies out there that have created software to help drive a universe of different use cases, but it's still software. It's, software is only as good as the operational plan that's put behind it. It doesn't magically solve your problems for you. And I think that's a risk, and probably a lot of, the landscape, even with some of the early, virtual agents were created. You hear the stories about the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars that big banks and financial institutions have spent, maybe wasted, on those kinds of things. Is that you get this idea that software is going to solve all your problems for you, Well, it's not. If that forward example is important to you, you need to build that into your kind of plan and operational process and the way that you engage with your customers, and then pick the technology that helps you drive your operational plan. Don't pick technology to try and fix it for you, because it won't.
Yeah. So, all right. So tell me, how do we blend the AI with the human and, make it a better overall experience?
Yeah. Well, we come in and we'll actually look at historic interactions that have happened with your customers, and we'll be able to tell you 35% of them kind of fit this mold, and we can fully automate that. They don't even need to touch a human, right. Those 35%. And here's another 20% where, the vast majority of those can be automated. Kind of look at the whole spectrum of, historic calls and give you a plan that if you want to move to kind of a 75% automation, you can do that. It might have a negative impact on CSAT, but if that's all you want to do and you want to save costs, and we'll paint a picture for you to do that. We'll help you create a plan for how your agents are going to engage and work with the automation, work with the bots to help that happen. What a lot of brands will do is, they'll kind of look for the sweet spot, and they'll figure out how they want to, and we'll help them figure out what to do with that. So if we're going to be able to take you from 10% deflection to 90% deflection, 30% of it we're going to use for cost savings, 30% of it we're going to use for upsells or creating, VIP type of engagement or brand ambassador program, things like that are actually going to help drive a higher level of satisfaction and potentially create some upsell opportunities for us.
If you enjoy what you're learning on the Customer Service Revolution podcast, you'll love our weekly newsletter, The E-Service. It's full of great customer experience tips and stories, includes special offers, webinars, and more each week. To sign up, head to tdg.click/e-service. That's tdg.click/e-service, ESERVICE. Enter your preferred email address, and you can look forward to great advice from John in your inbox every Wednesday.
How does AI make my customer service rep smarter?
Yeah, we have a co-pilot. I think everyone's got a co-pilot right now. Everyone's got a co-pilot. But it really is the thing that helps make those quick decisions. Like you're layering on technology to say, like you said, you got a daughter that goes to A&M. This customer's giving off some signals that might indicate they're getting really upset. So pull it back. So those are incredibly helpful things that AI has created the ability to kind of deliver in real time to agents that didn't exist. So it takes out a lot of the guesswork. So it does make them.
What about this, Eric? Because I would think it could work with sales too. Like, so I call you up, right? And I'm talking about, here's my situation dilemma that I'm trying to solve for, right? Yeah. And I'm not speaking to Eric, the CEO. I'm speaking to Eric, the account executive sales rep, entry level. And could it automatically populate a case study that you've done that now you can share with me how you've crushed it with another client? Is it there yet?
It is there. It's, I think it's how much money you want to spend, how many different tools you want to combine.
Yeah.
You can, those are the kinds of things that you can just give agents access to ChatGPT, for example, or something else, where they could just say, give me a story, give me an example.
No, but I'm talking about your own. So I'm thinking of like, in the DeJulius group, someone will call up from an obscure industry, and everything could be obscure. But then the first, and talking about, needing customer service help. And then our salesperson will get on and blast a message to all the consultants. Have we ever worked in this industry? Do we have any case studies? Do we have, and it's depending how fast we get back to her, if we're not traveling or that. I was wondering if it could search your own database saying, yes, John worked with one back in 2012, and here's the case study from them. Is that ever a possibility to search your own database? Or it's all what you want?
It's certainly a possibility. I mean, you can build your own kind of LLM with your data that's, proprietary internal use. I mean, there's really not. Yeah, there are.
That's not a kind of off the shelf.
It's not a pie in the sky thing. It's not. Well, there are off the shelf tools, like ChatGPT, for example, that will give you any searchable data for you.
In your own database, though, right? Because ChatGPT won't know about our previous case studies.
Well, yeah, but in your own, there are lots of analytics.
Point it to,
there's lots of analytics, tools that are out there you can do to, just search data and render that information to agents. And we do have some of our larger customers that actually do, create those kind of scenarios, and, we'll help them tie that into what the agents see, or help them tie it into specific reporting that helps, drive what they have the agents focused on. There's not a huge limitation to what you can do. At this point, it really is how much money you want to spend, how many different vendors you're going to need to kind of manage to do it. And, is there really an ROI on doing all those things?
Yeah. If a chief experience officer is listening and they want to, get involved and they've been planning, what's the first thing they should do? What's the first 3 things they should do when sourcing, what the right AI tools are for their company?
Yeah. Well, I would say the first thing you should do is define what the success, define what end state you're looking for and how you're going to measure that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times they'll say, everyone's talking about AI. How are we going to use AI?
Yeah.
You boy, Google that.
I mean, that's
1,000 people on you to tell you how you can use AI. I think, to the point, it's got to align with your operational plan. So figure out what the outcome that you're trying to drive is, how you're going to measure success in doing it. And then, talk to others who have, in your circle, people who have done similar things, and get some idea of, who are the vendors that we should be talking to about doing this. Ask them to show you where they've done it somewhere else. Give some real examples of where they've done it.
That I can call and
you can actually call and see, where they've done this.
What do you think the biggest mistake is that people do that you advise them not to do to rush this or to do it, to regret the initial investment?
Well, they don't set up clear success criteria, clear measurements for how they're going to drive success. They're trying to, and I think it happens a lot in contact centers and in customer service organizations, because there is this budget, and a lot of times it's, we're trying to figure out, how do we spend this $10 million or $100 million or whatever it is that we've, and so there's a temptation to say, wow, this really awesome new tech is going to just change the world. And you don't really set up a good plan, a good operational plan for that. You don't set up clear success criteria for it. And then you try it, and the vision that was created at the beginning doesn't become the reality, because there was really no roadmap for how to get from point A to point B. You were just relying on the vendor who gave you this great sales pitch to say, this is where we're going to take you.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare me at all when somebody says, here's where we're trying to go. And, here's all the problems that we think we have with getting there, and we need somebody to help us do that. And here's how we're going to measure success. And we're going to hold you accountable to that success. I would much rather go into that than having somebody who says, yeah, I bought it because I love your sales team, or I loved your sales pitch. I love the stories that you told about how AI can do all these great things for me. And, the reality is it was a really good sales pitch, but there wasn't a really good plan for how to get there. And I think that happens in any kind of hype cycle like this too, where people are afraid they're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And you even mentioned earlier, I think maybe we should just kind of pause for a second. You need first movers. You need people to make mistakes.
Yeah, early adopters,
can all learn
from
those mistakes. But I think the smarter companies are mitigating those by looking for, people who know how to kind of blend that, your real tangible objectives and operational plans with the technology.
We're speaking to Eric Vermillion, CEO of Helpshift. about how AI can help you leverage a better customer experience. Eric, what would be, do you have certain KPIs that you help set up so we can measure success?
Yeah, I think automation's a big part of it. We've got a case study we just published on the website at helpshift.com about Cybo, which makes Subway Surfers, which is one of the most downloaded games of all time, 4+ billion downloads. I think they've got about 150 million users actively per month. And they were launching a new game and they were trying to enable growth. So this wasn't really a cost savings. We want to be able to unlock new revenue. We want to be able to drive growth, but they were kind of subscribed to legacy email support, email systems, and they were seeing about a 10% deflection rate and not real high CSAT. And within 3 months of moving to an environment where they were leveraging AI to allow multilingual support, took a very logical kind of operational approach, like I described, where they figured out what were the most logical things to automate. They were able to get to kind of a 90+% deflection rate while actually increasing CSAT. So, level of automation, CSAT are, pretty easy ones to track and directly attribute to that, but also being able to unlock the growth without having to, make huge additional investments in, more technology and more people. They made the people they already had much more like, superstars, superheroes.
Yeah, which we all want, and that goes back to our previous discussion of happy, engaged employees versus a temporary transitional job, which I believe, contact centers are for too high of a percentage of employee base.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting transition for me from being kind of an independent software company to now being part of this big global organization that does a lot with, that's effectively a professional services organization. Yeah, but I think there's a huge future within the CX industry on that as well, and companies that do it well, because we have, the part of Keywords that we're part of actually has contact center agents. And we're actually helping equip these people to be really kind of superhuman contact center agents as well. And so that can kind of help with, big changes and shifts that are happening where it's not just the technology, but it is truly the technology blended with the people that are really kind of creating an end-to-end, CX solution. Yeah. Brands. And that I think is, I don't think 10 years ago anyone would have said, well, you can really develop a personal brand as a contact center agent. But now if you're good at technology, it really starts to kind of raise the game in terms of the desirability, the pay scale of, those types of jobs in the world. I think the line between account executive that might be, a pretty high earning job versus contact center agent that was on a different pay scale. I think those are, the scale is going to continue to.
Do you ever get in a situation where, this is all well and good, what Helpshift has to offer you, but your hiring is poor or your training is poor? Like you said, the technology is not the end all. You have to have good people, and sometimes it's not the people; it's throwing them in there with a lack of training. Are you ever faced that situation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I figured. I
don't have a fix for, poor hiring, company culture. I could offer some ideas. I know you offer a lot of ideas in this as well, but those are things that, that's a different problem.
Yeah. All right, Eric, if we're talking, you tell me what the time frame is. 2 years from now, I think that's enough. I was going to go out 5 years, but I think this is moving so fast. What do you think? What's our conversation look like? What's the world look like with AI? Obviously, it's going to be way more adopted. Are there things out there that, are seem like, no way in 2 years? What's this whole thing look like in 2026, 2027?
Yeah, I think that I mentioned the difference kind of between transactional versus relational. I think that's going to change profoundly. I really do think it's going to continue to get very easy for consumers to have what feels like continuous engagement with brands. When I think about the people I care about, in my life that I have relationships with, some of them I talk to daily, some of them I talk to, sometimes I go a year or two without talking.
Yeah.
It feels very familiar.
Right.
And know my perspective, they know enough
they
about
hit the ground. It's like we've been,
to have, to really, to kind of pick it up right where we left off.
Yeah.
It's going to look a lot more like that. And I think that there's also an element of decentralization here, that's going to happen. There's so many different things. I'm a big fan of Reddit. And I feel like I'm a customer support. I love, actually, if I see something on there that I care about, I love sharing, my tips with someone on Reddit. And I think you'll start to see a lot more of that. And that's very common in the gaming industry as well, where there are other, there are players helping other players. And I think, a lot of these tools will make it easier
to build communities like that,
for agents to build communities, and for agents to point people to communities, or to see answers that have been delivered in those communities, and, connect the dots for customers as they're trying to access support. So I think it'll become a lot more fundamentally. I think it's just going to continue to become a lot more relational, which I really look forward to. Because the transactional way of doing things. Yeah.
Well, but that's almost where I think most of the detractors feel it's going. It's going to be more transactional and less relational. So it's interesting that, your vision, with Helpshift wants it to be more relational. I mean, that's my last book was The Relationship Economy. So you're speaking right up our wheelhouse, which is great. And like you said earlier on, if it frees up the mundane tasks, that I can focus on the human being and don't have to be asking you for your, account 16-digit account number and zip code and all those things that you just had to punch in. And now a human being's asking you, and we're already off on a negative tone because you're annoyed because, of that, which is, most of our experiences.
Yeah.
Eric, how can people learn more about you and Helpshift?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn directly. Always happy to hear from anyone there, and go to our website at helpshift.com. We've got case studies and, some good stories there, and opportunity to learn a little bit more about Helpshift, or reach out to us, and happy to talk to any of you.
I will supply both those links, you on LinkedIn and helpshift.com. Any final thoughts that I didn't ask you about that would be good for our revolutionaries to understand?
No, I don't think there's anything that we haven't discussed. I just reiterate the point that, make this about growth. Use the tech to drive growth and not cost savings, and let the cost savings happen naturally with a growth mindset. It will elevate the game of your contact center, your customer service operations, and make it a much more interesting place and a much more attractive place for your contact center agents to work.
Yeah. As you say that, right? This, if done properly, should increase customer satisfaction, NPS, retention, ease of doing business, which is all great. Less marketing and advertising to replace the clients you're losing. But I think a KPI in this case could be your turnover rate of your contact center and employee engagement of your contact center. I think all this could increase that, and you can quantify that, but just a higher morale and lower turnover is huge. I just by working longer at this company, I'm going to recognize more people that call in. And back to the relational. Every time you call up my business, you're getting a new human being that insults you and says, "Have you ever done business with us before?" And you're like, "I've been a VIP for 10 years, I mean, that's not making you feel like a VIP, right? All right, Eric, I appreciate your time. I will have all your information in the show notes. I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for joining us.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Revolutionaries, we'll be right back after this.
Becoming the brand customers can't live without is a team effort. Want to get everyone on board and bought into becoming a world-class brand? Consider bringing John in live or virtually for a keynote or workshop. Email Claudia at thedejuliusgroup.com for more information.